Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Rotation Podcast. My name is MiDNiTE, aka Ashley. I'm here with Kingdom. And, sometimes life comes at you fast and you end up placing 11th in the standings of CDL, Minnesota RØKKR. Listen, Kingdom, we talked about it all last week, super hard, super intensely, about how we controlled our fate going into Major 4, and that
Yeah.
felt good. And then we didn't, right? We got reverse swept by NYSL. We lose game 5, heartbreaker to Optic, and we bow out of the tournament. And then I'm pretty sure like every worst case scenario for RØKKR happened. Like the teams we didn't want to win won. NYSL made a crazy run. I can't wait to hear your take and excitement about that because I bet you're pretty freaking hyped. But yeah, man, what a tough one. I think Rage Machine 420 came in the chat and said it best. They said, oofta. Yes, oofta is right. That is how we are all feeling right now.
Right.
So I guess, hey, man, we had a shot, though. At least we had a shot. But now we don't. And that's okay. Hey, next season, Modern Warfare 2's out in a few months. Hey, man, let's get a roster going. Let's attack next year is kind of where my mind's at. But before we think all about that and do a bunch of roster mania and off-season episodes, Kingdom, let's unpack Major 4 because it's much more than than RØKKR getting eliminated. So many crazy storylines that happened this past weekend. I would love to hear the Kingdom take on NYSW just ravaging their own tournament and making it to the grand finals. I want to hear the highs, the lows, your thoughts and feelings on the weekend as a whole.
So, I mean, I'll start with the highs. I said on the show last week, and it was really hard for me to say that I wanted, or I'll say I thought New York would beat Minnesota in round one, but my heart bleeds purple, and I wanted the RØKKR. I wanted both teams to make it to champs, basically. But I knew that if New York lost round one, they wouldn't make it, and I thought that if the RØKKR lost round one, they could beat Optic. I honestly like that's how I felt like that Minnesota was going to beat Optic. I didn't see Optic winning this event. I didn't think they could. I actually was happy for the matches that they did win. Like the RØKKR, they were like going map 5 with everybody, and it just didn't always work. And then they went up against FaZe and didn't make it to map 5. But I really thought that Minnesota had a chance to make a run. I thought that it was going to happen. That was honestly, I'll say the low. So I guess I'll start with the low. Was really when Minnesota lost, I was like, okay, well, New York can still make it. And then the other part of me was like, man, this is rough. Like, they got to make it. They got to. And so when they went map 5 with uh Optic, I thought there was a chance. I was like, there's a chance here. There's an opportunity. But once that was over, and I kind of was talking to you guys about it pre-show, it was like once I knew that Minnesota wasn't going to go on in the tournament, I felt really bad for Dylan. I'll just be blatantly honest. I know we'll talk more about it, but I felt really bad for Dylan. But him and Slash are both, not making it to champs this year was probably pretty hard. Probably hit them pretty hard. But to see Seth and Crim is such a storyline. It wasn't just about Crim6. I love Crim6. I love Clayster. I love Seth. I think they're three of the best players, and I don't know how you argue that, except maybe you might throw Wild Karma in there because he has 3 rings, but the longevity of their careers is obscene. And so I really wanted to see when you tweeted, like, after RØKKR were out and you tweeted, like, New York versus Optic Grand Finals, I was like,
Dude, I wanted it bad.
I want that at champs. Like, I would
Yeah.
love to, because you think about what it does for each of those guys' legacies. Is like for Crim, he is undoubtedly, undisputedly the GOAT. He can, Scump can still be your personal GOAT. But it's like this dude is
Scump's the
undoubtedly
goat.
the
I'll
GOAT.
die on the hill. I'll die on the hill.
If he has 4 rings and the most championships and gets his 4th this late into his career, that's obscene. If Seth gets the championship,
I do agree.
with the only 2-time X Games winner, multiple COD championships, and second in chips, you might say that Seth is now the better version of the GOAT. Maybe Seth is the GOAT for sure. So I think it's all on the line legacy wise, and I'm excited for champs. More excited than I've been in a long time. One of the other highs was this event, man. Holy crap! Like the
Super dope
walkouts,
crowd.
the like everything Crim did and New York did to walk out. And I heard today that a lot of that was organized by players and the crowd and the casters. They all threw in ideas like Crim should come out like the Undertaker, and like this wasn't all like pre-planned before the event where they knew all that was going to happen. And so like I like how they mixed it up because even at the Optic major, Optic was doing the green, whoa, green, and they did it every time. And like New York, you never knew what was going to happen. Crim 7 came out and all that. And so,
Dude,
like,
that was crazy too.
that's what I'm saying. It was, like, this event was easily, I would say, the best event of the year so far. The venue was freaking amazing. I wish I was there. Like, that venue was bananas to look at on camera. It was cool to look at. And then seeing it full with all of the crowd going crazy and really rooting on NYSL. The crowd went a little too far sometimes, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Especially about the Minnesota RØKKR. Like I was like, yo, like calm
It was
down.
the most
Like,
New York thing I've seen
sheesh.
in a while, man. They were like saying "F you, Standy," and like, I listen. I'm all for a passionate crowd, but when you're calling out players like that, it feels a bit much to me
Yeah,
personally. I'd love to know other people's opinions in the chat. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, what do we want for CDL to grow and for all of our organizations, fan bases to grow? Is a passionate crowd.
100%.
Would I say "F you" to another player if I was in the crowd? No, not me personally. But I understand. They get caught in the moment. They go wild. Like it seemed like an electric atmosphere. And yeah, having it. I think this is the first time that a major CDL event or even Call of Duty event that I can remember has been in a theater like this. So
Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
New York did a cool job. I loved Krim coming out with he had the snap pants, bro. I had those in
Oh,
sixth
that's
grade. I
right.
thought I was
Pulled
so
them
cool.
off.
I was ripping them things off, dude. He had to give it a couple tries, but he got it. And then
Yeah,
yeah, the Undertaker with the bell and the downward lighting, that was hype, bro. We just need more of that in CDL. It adds flair, it adds personality to each event and each team, and each even like player that comes out. And I'm really a big fan of that stuff. A big fan. I mean, we were in a theater and they were doing theater shenanigans, and
that's
I
true. That's a
really
good
like
point.
that.
Yeah, and the viewership was good. The casting was really good. Like these guys were on point. Like I like that they did these duos for the last 2 years. Like these guys, like Study and Landon casting together, and Miles and Chance, and like Merc and Maven, like having these combos, and Bryce and Ton, like having these guys cast together for a long time. Like Study and Landon have been casting together for since last year, and so it really builds a lot of chemistry, and you can see it. You can tell how they bounce off of each other, and they work so well together. And every casting experience feels good. There was a time when I'd be like, "Oh man, Maven and Merc aren't casting. I might go dinner and just listen in the background." But like what what these guys are doing now, like this event. Shout out to Esports Engine and everybody that had their hand on this event. Well done. Like hats off. And for New York, of course, the biggest high of the weekend, for New York to actually qualify in front of their home crowd, for Kismet to fry like he did, for them to come together as a team, for Hydra to play coming right off of COVID, like this was just a phenomenal event. And GG's to the New York Subliners, the most tippable performance outside of the RØKKR reverse. I would say this would be second to that easily. I've seen lots of loser bracket runs and stuff, but to go from 11th before this qualifier and with 70 points and to qualify for champs by getting second place at their own major, I don't think you have anything more tippable than that in the CDL. And so GG's to New York and their fan base.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we even talked about on previous episode, before stage 4 was starting, we were like, oh yeah, man, if New York's gonna make it, they gotta go absolutely wild. And then they did. Like good for them. Like they were able to control their own destiny and show up. And it although I obviously am super sad about
Yeah,
RØKKR not
right.
making it, I'm super sad about the likes of like Attach and Priesta and all of our guys really for not being at champs. I'm glad that Krim made it, and I'm glad that NYSL kind of stamped their ticket in a way so that they could make it to the next level. And I despite RØKKR being out, I am still super excited to watch champs. I hope Optic takes it, obviously, in a grand final versus NYSL. But I mean, honestly, I mean, LA Thieves ended up winning the event.
Wow.
They've been solid all year in a way. They've had some ups and downs, but they've been super solid lately, and they really showed out at this event. I wasn't necessarily expecting them to win and take the whole thing. So, maybe it's going to be, I mean, it's going to be, I think Champs is in LA, right? So maybe there's some vibes there of like a
Yep.
little home
LAG
field
isn't there. They
advantage.
got it.
Yeah, they're taking over that whole market. I mean, obviously it's a neutral event, but it is in LA Thieves home market, so it'll be super interesting to see like what that crowd is like. Like, is it going to be a mix? Is it going to be mostly Optic fans, LA Thieves fans,
That's actually a good
Grim
question.
Six fans? Like, yeah, I'm going to be super interested to see. And I would say like we were talking, last week about is the crowd going to be a factor in our match and other matches. And it definitely was, right? Like you had Saint mention the crowd on Twitter after we were out of the tournament. We played the home team in NYSL. We all know how the crowd was turning up for them. And then obviously we had, Optic fans roll deep everywhere, especially in a bigger city like New York. So a lot of people became Optic fans when NYSL wasn't playing, and so we were up against the crowd in both of our matches. And I think
So
you know,
I want to butt in real quick.
go ahead.
And this isn't no shade, revived gamer. Because I like what you said. You're being positive. Like the revived gamer says in the chat, we might have sucked this year, but there's always next year. Every COD game is much different. I saw a post from a popular person in the community that said they called the Minnesota RØKKR. They said something like, "Oh, well, now the most boring team is out of." And I was like, I asked what that meant. I got no response because I was like, "What the heck does that mean?" Like, you're talking about one of the top 5 overall KDs in the league, in Dylan, a team that takes everybody to map 5 and is really hard to beat. A team that ran 5-0 in one of the qualifiers. Like, I don't know who you're talking about. A team that ran the RØKKR reverse last year. Like, I was really puzzled by that kind of comment. Team with one of the best intros that we've seen in CDL history. Like, I was really like taken aback by that. This team didn't suck this year, in my opinion. LAN was a problem, and I don't know what the problem was, but LAN was a problem. But Minnesota played so well, well enough online to get close. It wasn't like Paris where they only won 2 matches. It was like Minnesota actually had a chance. They just couldn't capitalize it in the live setting. I don't know what that's about. I'm not a coach. I'm not a GM. That's for the Minnesota RØKKR organization to figure out. But I think that this team has a lot to be proud of. And yeah, of course, I know your mood, Ashley, and I know how you feel. It's like, yeah, there's 8 teams going to champs. You want to be one as an entire organization. You guys want to be at champs. Like, that is, of course, and what's one of the number one topics going to be? Well, like, what changes are this team going to make? What changes this team, that team? What's going to happen in the offseason? Are they going to be able to keep Dylan and all this kind of stuff? I think at the end of the day, a lot was learned this year. And I think the decisions that this team makes going into the next season are going to be based on that, and they'll go in a good direction. You guys have the intangibles and some of the groundwork that these other organizations aren't even close to when it comes to the overall culture of your organization, the merch you guys drop, the amount of content and things that you do and produce. Like, you guys have it all. You have a great environment and a culture. It's just finding the W's, and I think that it'll happen. I don't see a team where I have no faith. Like, you couldn't have told me that the Seattle Surge were going to do what they did this year, because their history told me I have no faith in that team. In the organization overall. I have a lot of faith in the Minnesota RØKKR, and not just because you're here, but I have a lot of faith in the Minnesota RØKKR, because I think a lot of the decisions that the organization has made have been really good. It's just, this is a very difficult league. Minnesota lost 2 map 5s. Like, this is a very difficult league, and I'm interested to see over time what the players say when they do separate, if they do separate, what happened, and how things could have been better.
Yeah, I mean that kind of like you're launching us into our next segment here, which is State of Minnesota RØKKR. Everything's on fire. It's bad. No, I'm just kidding. But we're eliminated from champs contention. We finish 11th of 12 teams.
Yeah.
And we did it in a heartbreaking fashion. We were up against NYSL in the crowd, get reverse swept, take Optic to map 5. That doesn't pan out, even though we've been such a historically good search and destroy
Yeah.
team. So definitely like tough L's to take and tough ways to end the season. It's not like we went in there and got wiped, but ultimately where we ended up, and you made the point earlier, is like our land performances all year weren't there. Um, One thing that's interesting to point out, and we'll talk about this obviously more as we get into the off season and roster mania. Damn, Shannon put the graphic up with
She
the
is on it. She
sheesh.
had the
I don't
venue
want
up
to look at
earlier.
this,
Like she
bro.
is.
Yeah, the venue was cool shit. I don't want to look at this, man. Nah, we'll look at it. We'll look at it. We'll look at it later. But I mean, for how things can shake out from here, for those that aren't aware of how this stuff works, when your team's exiting from their season, like we're done, right? There is no like you can't go talk to other players right away. That's tampering. But there will be a point during August where teams are going to need to decide if they're going to execute
Yeah.
their plus ones on the contracts, because the contracts are typically 1 year plus 1 year, and the plus 1 year is the team option. So the team decides, okay, we'll keep you and let's go forward. Last year we went forward again with all of our guys from the year before. I think we were one of like 3 rosters, maybe it was a Toronto phase
Yep.
that stuck.
And you guys.
And us. So we were one of 3 rosters that stuck, which I thought was a good idea. Obviously, like I think like we let's talk a little bit about like the team performance. Like
Yeah.
obviously each player that we have is individually so good.
Yep.
And we've seen teams like that before, like NYSL with Clay earlier this year. Like individually, those players are all cracked. But it comes down to playing together and how you're able to do that and accomplish these things together. And it wasn't in the cards for us this year.
Yeah.
So because we extended our players last year on a plus one, now there is no more plus one. Everyone on our team is about to become an unrestricted free agent next month,
Holy
which
snap.
means that those players have the options to take offers from other teams and kind of go where they want to go. And so what I'm saying is roster rating is going to be freaking nuts, bro, because like
bananas.
obviously, like if you take that into account, the fact that we will not have any of our players under contract, that means stuff's going to get shaken up, and I have no idea what's going to happen. It's going to be crazy. It's going to be awesome to watch it unfold and talk about it with you every week here on the podcast. But yeah, dude, that's the state. We didn't qualify for champs, and all of our players will be off contract in about a month or two. So
It's tough.
it's tough. It is tough because I do love our players. I love all of our players, and I do hope that we're able to like retain some of them. To clean slate, it feels weird, right? We've already
Yeah.
done that as a franchise previously, and it felt weird at that time too. But ultimately, this organization is one that wants to win. We take it very seriously. 11th is not good enough for us at all, not even close. And so I'm just super excited to see how our staff, Jake, who's I guess to simplify his role, if you're thinking about it, is essentially going to be the GM this
Yeah.
off season, and obviously our coaching staff. So they're the ones that are going to be making moves, and obviously we'll be doing content alongside of that to keep you guys in the loop like we always have. But that's it, man. That's the state of RØKKR. We didn't make champs, and stuff's about to get crazy, bro. Oh my god, I need some predictions in the chat already. Who are you guys thinking with that knowledge in mind?
That is such an interesting. I didn't know everybody was on a plus one, but a comment that I heard earlier, which I have to agree with, is like people were asking um, about the LA Thieves. Will they do what Minnesota did last year? Like, everybody was under the impression last year that if Minnesota, of course, didn't win, Major Four and go on to place top four at champs, like they probably wouldn't have stuck, and because they figured it out, and nobody knows the new title, so why would you split up? I think it's an interesting topic to talk about because I wonder, will FaZe split up if they don't win champs? Will they get rid of
For sure,
varsities
I
and pull in
think.
someone else? Because Simp and Abizi aren't splitting, and Celium is the best player on the sticks. You're not getting rid of that guy. The only option FaZe has is varsities. People asked about LAT. Yeah, I think they will stick if they place top four even at champs, they're going to stick. They just won $200,000 together. They're going to go to a $2 million tournament and play together. They are one of the scarier teams right now. Them and New York are both really scary to a lot of teams right now because they seem to have this like sauce, like we have the confidence to beat you, and they don't care who they're going against. They don't care if it's FaZe. I mean, LAT beat them twice this weekend. They don't care who it is. They're like, we'll play anybody, Optic, FaZe, whatever. Like, we'll beat them. And so it's going to be an interesting event, but a lot of these teams, it's going to be spicy. And I think for the Minnesota RØKKR, if I was in GM's, there's a guy on the roster that was top 5 in KD, but also played um, like a team. He wasn't like Temp, where when you did listen-ins, you didn't hear Dylan yelling at the other players the whole time and getting frustrated and getting mad, and that's what you heard from Temp all year long. Even though he had good stats, his team was just bad. The RØKKR found ways to win. They found ways to go 5-0 in a qualifier. Like I think Dylan has done a great job. Standy fell off towards the end of the year, but he's still a great SMG. And this game has to play a role, right? So it'll be interesting what happens next year. But I think I'd form around Dylan. That's just because he's too consistent. And he reminds me of
He
Seth.
had a great year. He's had 2 great years in a row.
Yeah. I mean, he has been, and I'll say arguably is what I'll say, because people can say there was a period where Standy was the best, but what Dylan does so well is he doesn't just do good, he puts people in position to do good, and so
Yeah.
his teammates are gonna look good. Havoc looked good a lot in a lot of different series, but they just couldn't find W's. And I think if you put the right recipe together for Dylan to find W's, he's gonna be reliable. And when you can find reliable players, the last thing I guess I'll say about this for the Minnesota RØKKR is it can't just be we just need to win. The LAG proved this year winning an event is almost meaningless. They won an event and
Yeah.
didn't qualify for champs. Like, they made more money than 90% of the teams in the CDL because they got 200K from that one event, but didn't qualify for champs. And so I'm like, it's not enough to just win, it's consistency. FaZe hasn't won anything this year, not the Pro-Am. They placed horrible at that. They haven't won anything, and they're the number 1 team by far in points because they just showed up at LAN, got top 2 every time, and it sucks for them, but they did it, and they have, you can see on the screen, 330 points. And so I think consistency is what the Minnesota on LAN specifically, because those 10 points don't matter that much. Consistency on LAN is where Minnesota needs to figure out what needs to change. And I'd lean into Dylan and ask him, because he has the most LAN experience of probably 90%, over 90% of the CDL, but of course over his team.
Yeah, yeah. And real quick, I do want to make one correction because we did bring Havoc in this year. We do technically, I believe, have that option to +1 him. So that's, I mean, who knows? It's our option to do.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, people are building rosters in the chat. I say let them rock, let them RØKKR. I'm not gonna build one, but I think I do definitely do agree, Kingdom, with your assessment that if you're looking to build around a player, if you had to pick one, you'd pick Attach. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's we could speculate and discuss rumors and stuff all we want on the podcast, but ultimately it is up to our staff whose job it is to do that. So I'm excited for them. I'm nervous for them. Roster mini is always a stressful and crazy time of year. And that's why I want to make sure that, we keep you guys up to date as much as possible. We have been, in the past, just as an organization as a whole, pretty transparent when it comes to, what happened, what are we going to do? Why are we doing that? So look forward to that in the off season as well. I will say, I mean, Saint and Looney, I don't know if you caught it, but they did a post-game interview, after the Optic loss when the season was over. It was tough, man. Like I don't even know what I'd say in that situation. They did their best. It was just these coaches. Do remember, guys, when you're turning up in the chat, just do remember that like there are real people who play this game, who play for our team, who work for this team, who it means the world to them to succeed, and the fact that we didn't sucks. So don't dunk on anybody. no F you standees in the chat. Not that there are, but I'm just saying, I'll just make a joke. But anyway, that's yeah, it's been an insane year. It's been a roller coaster. I think the land performances is ultimately what did us in. We also did like I think in the first two stages not qualify into the winners bracket.
No,
That's a
no,
huge deal
yeah.
as well because then you're one and done at land, so it just compounded on itself really. You're not getting those early points and you're not able to make a run at land. It's just not going to add up to a top 8 placing. But hey man, it was a fun ride, man. It was a fun season regardless. There was so much that happened this year, Kingdom. It was crazy. And now with Modern Warfare 2 coming out, like
Let's
I was in the
go.
original Modern Warfare 2. This is technically Modern Warfare 2 2 that's coming out. But the original Modern Warfare 2, that game was insane. It was amazing. I thought Modern Warfare, the Modern Warfare game that was out a couple years ago, I thought that was pretty good, pretty fun for competitive.
Oh yeah.
So I'll be super stoked to see, what Modern Warfare 2 brings to the CDL. And also I don't think this is confirmed, but I saw like I don't know if it was a leak or a rumor or whatever that came out a few months ago that the next Call of Duty that comes out, like they're gonna stop with their yearly cycle.
Two
Like
years. It's
in
2 years.
yeah, yeah, it's gonna move to 2 years. So
Yep.
it's potentially like we could be playing Modern Warfare 2 for the next 2 years. So you really want to make sure you nail roster mania before a 2-year game, or at least make the moves necessary for your team,
You know what though?
as that season unfolds.
The thing we haven't been able to do since what I can't remember, was it COD 4 that lasted 2 years? There was a game because World at War never had a season, so it's like there was one game that was 2 years long, way back, way back, way back when. But the cool thing is, after a year, you'll be able to make roster decisions based on like legit, like how people play on that game, rather than guessing. You know, like I don't know how any of you guys as organizations make these changes when it's like, I don't know what this game's going to be like. I don't know what roles are going to even matter. Do I need a flex? Like, is there going to be a flex,
Right.
or is it? Am I?
Is
Is
this
it
a
going to be
three
three
SMG
ARs? That's
game?
what I'm saying.
Like
Like, what? 3 lane maps? Do I need people that have good COD IQ? Like, you don't know, and you have to just lock people down anyway based on raw skill and like it's a I don't know what the formulas are that go into that, but I can't imagine after next season going into another season of that game and trying to figure out, oh wait, okay, we know exactly how these people play. Now who's going to get picked up? You may see people stay in the CDL for longer, just based on the fact that they played well in a game, because you see people that play well in a game and then you just don't see them anymore. They just disappear, and they don't get a chance to redeem themselves. And so it'll be interesting. I'm looking forward to that switch up, see how it goes.
Yeah, same. I do think it's going to be. I mean, it's just going to be intense all around. It's going to be an intense champs, intense roster mania, and then we'll be all rocking and rolling going into the next CDL season. Obviously, it feels like a long ways away, but trust me, time moves fast in this world. All right, we're going to move on to the next segment, but before we do, I want to make sure that we give love to our sponsor on the rotation here, Prize Picks. We're super grateful that Prize Picks supports the podcast. I'm just going to take a minute to tell you a little bit about who they are, what they do, and why you should check them out. Prize Picks is the easiest way to play daily fantasy for both esports and traditional sports. If you don't know how daily fantasy on Prize Picks works, it's super straightforward. You can check out the games that are coming up and place props on players that are based on projections, like banging the over on the number of eliminations by Scumpy. They've got Rocket League, Call of Duty, Valorant, and other esports. And I know I'll definitely, like, once the NFL season starts up here, I will definitely be checking out some of the props that they have on there for that. The projections are posted a few days before the games happen, so you won't see like anything for champs right now, but the week of champs, those will be up. And that's it. Super simple. Depending on how many over-unders I make, I could win up to 10 times what I put in. 10 times, Kingdom. If you want to give Prize Picks a shot, please don't forget to use promo code ROTATION when you sign up for a match deposit up to $100 when you create a new account. That's free money, baby. Check out the link in the description. Like I said, code rotation on Prize Picks. Please remember, you must be over 18 to do daily fantasy on Prize Picks, and also always play responsibly. Let's go. Shout out Prize Picks. Thank you again for sponsoring the podcast. All right, Kingdom, let's get into the next thing. We're going to sneak peek champs. I know, it's 2 weeks away, but we are going to be skipping next week. We will not be live next week because I don't know what to talk about other than to just cry. But no, so we'll be doing our champs predictions on August 2nd. That will be our next rotation episode. There's no bracket, right, yet, Kingdom? We just know like who's qualified.
There's a
Shannon, are you able to
bracket.
bring up
No, there's a
who's
bracket.
qualified? Is there?
Yeah,
Where's that?
for champs.
Am I crazy? Yeah, is there?
Shannon hasn't seen it. I can send it. Yeah, there's definitely a bracket.
Yo, send the bracket. Yo, we
Yeah.
could technically. Nah, we'll save our predictions for
FaZe in New
August
York
2nd.
play first round.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so it's
Oh my
1-8. So it's like Optic, FaZe New York, Optic Ultra, Thieves, Breach, and then Raven Surge. They all play each
Are
other.
you able to send Shannon the bracket so she could put it on screen?
Yeah,
Dude, I feel like I just checked the CDL site and I didn't see it earlier, but maybe I'm tripping.
I've seen
I
it
have
on the
been known to
timeline all
trip.
day, so I don't know or I saw it on I was watching a podcast and I saw it, so I know it's there. I just gotta find it. Unis
Word.
Momentus.
Dude, FaZe versus NYSL off the rip. I mean, FaZe, they placed top 3 at Major 4. So,
Yeah,
I mean, that's not,
to
I
be
mean, I think
honest,
we,
LA Thieves winning the event helped them out a lot because if Subliners won, I think they would have been over Ultra and they would have played Optic in round. Oh, they
oh
might have
my
been over
God.
Ultra and Surge. They might have played LA Thieves round. Well, who knows? Because I don't know where Thieves would have been. So somehow New York would have been like fifth. I don't know how many points they didn't get by not winning. I don't remember, but they would have been like fifth or sixth. That would have been interesting.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Sorry, let me try to
Who does
find the
Optic
bracket.
play right away?
Optic plays Ultra.
Oh, cash. Cash money.
You
Let's
hope.
go.
Okay, I found it. I found
Who
it.
do you want? Who do you want to win champs? I obviously want Optic. I want Optic NYSL in the finals. Is what I'm aiming for.
I put it in general on Discord.
All right, cool. And I know Shannon's about to pull it up for the podcast viewers at home. And then if you're listening on an audio platform, that's okay because I'm about to read these to you. You've got FaZe versus Subliners, crazy. Ravens versus Surge, I just fell asleep. Optic versus Ultra, lit. LA Thieves versus Breach, sick.
Dang,
Dude.
that was
This is gonna be
quick,
so
Shannon.
sick. I
Jeez.
know. Yo, she already did
With a
it.
quick, yeah, it's already on screen.
Let's go. That girl, rapid
Producer
fire.
Shannon, shout out.
Producer Shannon, shout out. She got the graphic up in record time. Yeah, I didn't know this graphic existed. I must have been under a log today. I was just thinking about Roster Mania. I was just getting so excited. But yeah, I mean, I obviously is it safe to say, Kingdom, you're pulling for NYSL to win all of champs this year? Who are you like? Who do you want to
Man,
win,
that's
and who do you
hard.
want the finals to be?
I want the finals to be Optic and Subliners. I want Crim and Scump versus each other.
Yes, me
9
too.
maps, like I would, and I want it to go to map 9.
I wanted to go 15 maps. I want one of them to have to win 8 maps. I want them to play every competitive map in the finals, Crim versus Scump, and decide who the GOAT is.
Do you like? I don't even know if our brains can fathom, but like, if that actually happened, where New York Subliners versus Optic, like this event had great viewership without even when Optic left the event.
Yeah, I
Like, there
noticed
was
that. I was
still
like,
good
wow, this
viewership.
goes crazy.
And honestly, I think one thing I learned from this event is that, like the experience, the in-person experience matters. And now that we're getting farther and farther away from like COVID restrictions, it's like you can put more people in a space, and being able to even
Yeah.
watch an event where you can see that many people being loud and crazy, like it matters. And I really think that if you get New York and Optic versus each other in Los Angeles for COD champs, for all the glory, the storylines write themselves. Like that is just, man. However, that FaZe team is more desperate than they've ever been. I
For
do
real.
wonder what you think about FaZe, and we need to talk about it at some point. If they, like, let's say they place 4th or 5th, something crazy like that at this event, do you think there's a world where they actually make a change? But for me, oh man, yeah, I'm gonna say I want to see an NYSL Optic final for sure.
Me too. If that ends up happening, everything about life is scripted and made up. We have no control over everything. It's just we're in a movie. That's it.
The
I do
simulation.
think Subliners, I mean, they're coming in hot. They just bounced back. They've proven that they're legit. FaZe is not the FaZe that we've known over the last 3 years. So obviously, do I think FaZe can clutch up? Heck yeah. So I think like Subliners have got it out for them. or they've got it out for themselves really in playing phase round one. Ravens versus Surge is going to be pretty enticing because Surge has really been on a
That's an
downturn
interesting one.
lately.
Yeah.
So this could be, I mean, if you're Ravens, you're looking at your matchup versus Surge and you're like, oh, thank God, mate, or whatever. I'm sorry, that was the worst British accent of all time. But and then yeah, Optic versus Ultra. Ultra, someone said in the chat, Optic or Ultra always plays Optic close, which is true. Ultra is like king close matches, but I think Optics they turn up at champs, man, and it's gonna be scary. You're gonna have a warmed up Illy back on the sticks. It's going to be crazy. And then Thieves versus Breach. I wouldn't count Breach out, but Thieves is looking red hot. So this is going to be, I'm super stoked already for 2 weeks from now to be
Who do
getting all hyped
you
up for champs.
who do you think has the biggest chance of being double L'd out of
Double
the
first
tournament?
rounded would
Yeah.
be Surge, I think, is most likely. Surge or Breach.
Yeah, Breach for sure have an opportunity to do that, and it sucks because they've shown so much potential, and they even have played really well. They were 4-1 in the qualifiers. Like they couldn't catch a real break at this tournament. But I feel like Destiny had the subliners in the finals, right? Like it was just meant to
Yeah.
be. It was who's
It
going to
just
be
had to
there to
happen that
play
way.
against them, right? It was like either going to be LAT or FaZe. If FaZe would have beat LAT one of the two times they played them, it would have been Crim versus the Tiny Terrors, and it would have been great to watch.
Yeah, that would have been nuts too. Man, I'm excited, bro. I'm excited. I hope like I'm excited to see the content that CDL does ahead of all this as well to really build on those storylines and make this one of the best champs ever. Even though RØKKR's not there, it can't be the best champs ever, but it could be close in my
It could
opinion.
be close.
Um all right, let's go on to some fan cues. The fans had cues and boy were they brutal. Just kidding. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and answer a couple fan questions here to cap off the pod. Dr. Fino asked, why are your CDL camos so fire? Let me tell you what, man, it's the purple and blue. The way that those complement each other with the dark purple, the bright blue, ooh, so nice. When your friends see you rocking that, they're like, yo, what's that? You tell them the RØKKR camo. Very biased, but I do love our branding. Obviously, I work for the team. Even if I didn't, we have fire branding, the most fire. Kingdom, why do you think our CDL camos are so fire?
I kind of think what you said. The RØKKR have such a recognizable logo, in general. I think the way that you've used purple is kind of the best in the league, and the way you guys have like developed this kind of
Yeah, screw
cool,
the other purple
like
teams.
yeah, like I mean, Ultra definitely they were the meme team when Methods was there. They were the meme team for an entire year. It was like they were proud of it. They were memers and proud. And then they switched up to try to be cool, kind of like Minnesota. But they're not catching as many W's this year as and then they don't look as good this year as they did last year. Um, and so I don't think it's the same. And then lag, of course, they're always lagging. So yeah, Minnesota RØKKR, best purple team in the game. Let's go.
Best purple team. By far. By far. Chat, if you don't have a RØKKR CDL camo, consider getting one. Let's rep the squad. Let's support in a hard time, all right? It's going to be okay. We've got this. I'll see you in rank play. Next question here. Nate asks, why is it so hard for us to win on land? I have no idea. I don't know. I think I revert to my mindset that I was, or my thought that I had before, which was like we have great individual players on this team. I mean, Priesta, nuts. Standy, nuts. Attach, crazy. Havoc comes in, meshes right in. Great individual players, but on this game during this year, it was just not the way. Something about the composition of the team and the roles and the different strats that you had to use for this particular game didn't work out. Why was it so hard? I don't know, because obviously we've seen this team win on on LAN. Obviously with Havoc in there, it's a different player than Major Maniac, but we have seen these guys have the resolve to reverse sweep in a best of 9 on LAN. Like they have what it takes to win on LAN. It just this year, I think, with this game and this composition of players, it wasn't in the cards. Kingdom, what's your take? Why was it so hard for RØKKR to win on LAN this year?
Um, you know, I honestly think it has a little bit to do with the crowd composition. I don't think it impacted Dylan. but maybe it had an impact on some of the other players. I also think there may be, and this is going to sound weird because I know Priest has been in the league for a minute, but there maybe just needed to be an extra piece of veteranship. I'm making up a word to go along with Dylan's experience that would let him be free and play, but maybe have that kind of voice like Major. It's just that Major didn't his combination of what he was skilled at on the sticks and then what he was skilled at in terms of leadership, it didn't combine well enough for the RØKKR to get the results they want. You know, and you can tell by them going 5-0 and starting in the winners bracket. And even though they didn't have the success they wanted, they started where they wanted to start, you know, in in the last two majors. And so obviously there was a positive impact. But on land, there wasn't a positive impact. And it's like it'd be a perfect world if you could kind of sub or something and like, let's do this online and then we go to land. But I just think Dylan needed some kind of veteran help, someone else who just really knew how to play the game. That did not work for Crim and Clay, but it's because they just clash personality wise. And I think Dylan would work well with some of the veterans in the game, and we'll see what happens next year.
For sure. For sure. Great question, Nate. Sad question, but great question. And then the last fan question we have here tonight from Andrew. What would you like to see the CDL do next year to improve on
Spicy.
this year? Well, I would say really double down on what works and what doesn't, right? I think just from an event standpoint, the things that NYSL did at their most recent event, the whole theatrical intro, the weird church pope thing was going on, and then you had the unique player entrances, more stuff like that to really give these teams and these players even more personality and give people a reason to cheer. I would love to see them, do that. And then my other point, it's not necessarily something that CDL can do, but I do think it's something that they can eventually and hopefully already are influencing is a well balanced Call of Duty to come out and be in some ways catered to competitive play. I'm not saying make the whole Call of Duty made for competitive like a game like Valorant, but make sure that there are some good freaking maps in that game. Let's balance the guns. Let's influence the development of this game because it's a huge league with tons of money and supporters and excitement behind it, and a good game's only going to help grow that. So those are my two things: is cool player entrances and make sure the game's good.
I mean, yeah. I think some stuff needs to be launched a little earlier, like league play and
For sure.
skins and all that kind of stuff. I think teams should work with the CDL, especially for a 2-year cycle, and get some microtransactions going where we can like really, see stuff as time goes on, maybe have different types of team packs and stuff like that. Maybe when someone wins an event, they get something special in game that you can purchase because they'll have a heightened amount of fans for that moment. I also think the league should talk to the well, communicate through the players more, if that makes sense. And so I don't know if they communicate to the players, I would imagine so, but communicating through the players more, meaning like making sure the players are so informed that they can inform all of the crazy fans that Call of Duty has and all of the crazy Redditors that Call of Duty has gathered. I would love to see that. I also would love to see online matches worth a little bit more weight somehow, if that makes sense. I don't know if they're 20 points instead of 10 points or like to where you can actually grind on in the online matches. If they're going to matter, they'll get better viewership. I think a team like Minnesota playing well enough online to qualify would have made sense, even if they didn't place as well on land. Because I don't know what the gap was. I mean, it would be nice, but I don't. I just think that in terms of viewership overall, like having more impactful league matches, I think would be a thing. And yeah, I think that's it. I mean, I'd love more lands, of course. I liked old school where like once a month you guys were flying somewhere to do something and I got to just, be a crazy fan and watch all the time. There was always something going on and 2Ks on the weekend and all this kind of stuff. Like I know pro points were bananas and it was such a crazy way to do things, but the one thing I will say, and I'll tip my hat to the league for this, for a game that everyone has said is so bad, like horrible, a game that I have not played, and I know others have not played as much as they have other games. I watch the crap out of it, of course, because I love watching esports, and that's what I
Same.
would
I
say
like
is
watching it way better.
Yeah, the league has done a good job of making this game entertaining competitively, and the storylines that the league is also helping to prop up, like about Crim leading into this tournament. I felt like the whole CDL was watching to see if Crim 6 was going to qualify for champs. It was like they made sure you knew that, and then they were retweeting, posting, commenting on, and then the banter between all the teams was amazing. Like, I really I think that more banter between teams on Twitter, more taking over other teams' Twitter pages, more teams saying, "Hey, we're just waiting to see if these guys, lose so we can get in," or whatever. Like, more of that, like, that stuff is good, and the storylines, just that's why people that are normally watching CS:GO or Apex or something else, when they look at Twitter and they see that there's all this stuff being talked about in the CDL, that's why they then go view in the thousands and thousands and thousands. And so I just want to see this esport to continue to grow, and be a place where people can actually have a career for a long time. So yeah, I think a matter of fact, like, PS5 criminal community is top tier. There you go. Yeah, I am grinding COD Mobile. Will, correct.
Love it, Kingdom. Good shouts, man. Good shouts. Community is top tier. We go crazy in the worst and best ways, as always. Call of Duty, baby.
That's COD.
All right, final thoughts here before we close out the podcast. My final thought is I'm sad, and it's okay to be sad, all right? It's okay to be sad and disappointed right now. But I'm going to let myself have this moment, let myself realize, okay, RØKKR's not going to champs. Stuff happens. And let's start to look forward to what I think will be a really good Call of Duty champs and what I think is going to be an insane off season, an insane release of Modern Warfare 2, and just an insane retake by RØKKR next CDL season. That's my final thought. I'm sad, but I'm excited. Kingdom, what's your final thought today?
Age is nothing but a number. Scump is second place in this league right now, going to champs with an actual opportunity to win. Slasher won an event this year. Crim 6 just made one of the greatest runs that we've seen to get two champs in the first place. And Dylan Attach, none of those other guys had this, was top 5 in the league for KD. Age is nothing but a number.
Yeah, that's for real, for real. All right. GG's in the chat. Listen, we'll see you guys not next week, but the week after on August 2nd. We'll be here to break down and look forward to champs and do our predictions and predict with you guys and just have an overall good time. So we will see you guys then. And also make sure you follow our Twitter, stay up to date, all that stuff. The RØKKR Twitter is down in the description. Big shout out again to Prize Picks. Appreciate the sponsors on the pod. And that's about it. Thanks for watching, everyone. And if you're listening not on YouTube, appreciate you listening. And we'll see you guys next time.
Peace out.